Okay, we're going to try this video again because I was signed into the wrong Google account for my Screencastify, which I paid to upgrade. So, my name is Jody Bowie, and I'm going to talk to you guys about my website called edtech.works. That is a domain that I purchased, and I purchased it through Google Domains. It's like $12 a year. I've previously used GoDaddy for other websites that I've done, but I thought I want to do everything with Google and see how much a teacher would have to invest in creating a really nice website um, that requires minimal technology knowledge with a little bit of help from some resources that I'm actually hoping to add to this site. So, edtech.works. I started with a learner analysis. And in that analysis, the very first part was looking to see who the students are. And those students are Southern Nazarene University undergraduate education students, some freshmen, some sophomores. This next year, I'll be teaching 2 sections, and I suspect I'll have one group that will have had a couple of education classes, and they'll be sophomores. Maybe a junior or 2. And then the other class is a paired course with aesthetics, and it's solely going to be freshmen. So that will be interesting to see the differences in students who are just starting in an education major versus students who have some understanding of what education is about, of being an education major is about at least. And then understanding what I say is the importance of this course. It's actually the only EdTech course that these students will have during their time at Southern Nazarene University. It's the only EdTech course that we offer. As a side note, I am working hard to make it into 2-part course where there's a beginner course and an intermediate course, or a 1 and a 2 or something like that. So I'm working on that. And then the demographics, this semester has actually been really interesting at SNU. I'm already pretty involved there, even though I don't technically start work. I'm an alum with both my degrees so far from there. And so I know that there's very little diversity, but there have been some racial issues that have happened on campus. And so we've had an opportunity to look more closely at the diversity and work harder to be more involved and encourage interactions between diverse groups of students and majority students. And so looking at that demographic gave me a better understanding of how I could structure this course to work hard to keep out any value language that might be inadvertently racist or prejudiced against a particular group of people. So I'm working on that. And then interest was the next part. And I say that this needs to be relevant. My goal with this particular website is to make it a model for teachers, pre-service teachers, to see with about $35 or $40 what you can do to create a nice website that has a domain name and things like that. So I say $35-ish because I have $12 in the domain for the next year, and I have $20 in the upgraded Screencastify. And the reason I upgraded is because the other one limits you to 10 minutes, which is really good if you're making instructional videos, because best practice is like 5 to 8 minutes. But for a presentation like this, I might actually talk a little longer than 10 minutes. So it was worth it to me to be able to do videos that were longer, and you can send them directly to YouTube with the paid version also. So in having tried it out, I do recommend Screencastify. It's an add-on to Chrome, and €20, which is 25-ish dollars or so. So I definitely recommend it. And then the environment that the course is being taught in, I thought in terms of the online environment and the types of devices that students would be using to access this course. And so I worked very hard to do everything platform agnostic. You don't need to have a specific tool from Windows or Mac or Linux or Opera or whatever. I want every student to be able to access it. And then also, the site is supposed to be optimized for mobile viewing. And I have viewed it on a mobile device, and it does look good. So, I mean, I still have some things to tweak on it. It's a work in progress always. Everything I do is a work in progress. And then, as far as the needs of the students, I was thinking in terms of disabilities. Um, and I kind of fell back on some of my instructional design and experience. And in addition to the readings that we did and the work that we did in this course, but disabilities, specifically students with vision problem, if they are using a screen reader and you have a link on the page and it says click here for the rubric, um, it if their screen reader reads them all the links on the page and they're looking for a specific link, and every one of your links say click here and the word here is the only thing you've linked, then all they're going to hear whenever they read all of those links, when their screen reader reads it to them, is here, 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 and so on. So rather, I tried to make entire sentences a link. If it says click here to view the rubric, then that whole thing, I need to say what rubric it is, but I need that whole click here to see the rubric on the Google Sites project. That all would be a hyperlink, or maybe just the rubric for the Google Sites project, rather than linking click here. So that's an important thing to think about, that I thought about anyway, on this. Additionally, putting images, giving an alternative, what am I saying? Alternative text. So that's really important. So for customization, saving student work for the future is important to me. So I wanted something that I would be able to continually work on, and it wouldn't be just a single purpose. So I was trying to think about the students that I would also have coming in the future. And then expectations. My expectation is that these teachers would be doing, we're going to be using the ISTE teacher standards. And so that takes me over here to my sitemap. And these are the 5 teacher standards that are important to me and are going to be important to the students who are taking this course. So I did think in terms of that, and this is not exactly what my site looks like, but again, I was using a Google product and I wanted to show what you could do with a Google drawing, trying to model things for students. So I do anticipate this being at least a partial map of the site with each individual standard. And then under each individual standard, you would have the instruction or the rich media, and you would have examples of whatever it is that you're showing them, and then an assessment as well. And the black box with the instruction media, the instruction rich media, that section would be TPAC, which is the technology, pedagogy, content, knowledge framework. And so if you think of a Venn diagram with 3 circles, one is technology knowledge, one is content knowledge, one is pedagogy knowledge. The sweet spot in the center would be where all of those things intersect. And then you have a classroom that has ubiquitous and visible, integrated technology into every facet of the student's education, which that's a goal for me, is to not have a special technology day, but you just use technology for everything that you're doing. It's just another extension of your teaching. It's not a special part. As far as my website choice goes, I did, as I mentioned before, I used Google Sites, and that cost me nothing. I've actually helped set up a couple of sites recently on Google Sites for some campaign, a couple of teachers that are running for office in the state this year. And it's a pretty versatile product. You have some customization that you can do. I won't say that you can customize it completely, but you can do some customization. And what you can do it without having a lot of knowledge in HTML or CSS. But if you know those things, then you can certainly do more. One of the things that I really like about this is if I'm thinking as a teacher with a group of students that I'm going to have for a year, maybe I have each student has their own page where they're sharing their work or something that they're doing with that page. One of the great things about Google Sites is that you can set up page level permissions. So if I wanted someone else to be able to edit a page on my edtech.works site, I can enable page level permissions, and then I can share a single page. I can share edit rights for that page specifically with them. So that's much better than me just giving them access to the entire site. So that's kind of what my thinking was on website choice. On my interactive elements, right now what I have is a Google form, which is a quiz. And if you look on the website, I think the title of the quiz is edtech.works for scripting quiz. And this was to show what you can do with scripting. It's a short little kind of formative assessment of some of the things that you would learn from the Twitter page and some of the Google information. And I wrote a script for that. And what it does is as soon as the student submits the form, the script runs, it compares their answers to the correct answers, and it sends that student an email, whatever email address they put in, it sends them an email there with what their score was and what questions they got wrong, what their answer was, and what the correct answer is. So I'm trying to think of, like, if you think in terms of immediate feedback, using Google Forms and using a script to go with those Google Forms for grading. Number one, you can open the spreadsheet where their answers go and see exactly what they did and didn't get, and you can see their grade immediately, just as soon as that script finishes running, which is about maybe 10 to 15 seconds. The other thing that I have on there is a Quizlet that has some Google terms, just some real generalized things, but some important things. I am having trouble with the embed code on it. That's one thing that I always struggle with, is embedding things on Google Sites, but I have the utmost confidence that with some patience and work, I will get that working. It's currently there, but it is currently not showing up, so no one knows that it's there. It's just a page. My rich media elements, I chose to do all videos. As I mentioned before, Screencastify, there's a paid version. The free version, you can actually do up to 10 minutes. And there are times when I need longer than 10 minutes in the case of this particular presentation. However, if I'm making short videos for students, the free Screencastify version is great, because you shouldn't be making a video longer than about 8 minutes anyway. You're going to lose your students' attention. There's lots of research on that. And so best practice, you're looking at 3 to 5 to maybe 8 minutes at the outset. And so be sure that when you're done with those videos that you give them something to do with that, not just watch a bunch of videos. They should be taking a quiz or writing down a reflection or something like that. So I recommend the Screencastify paid version. I'm hosting those on YouTube, which is, again, another Google product. It's completely free. The paid version of Screencastify, I can put my videos directly into YouTube without having to download them and then load them into YouTube. They also exist on your Google Drive. So Screencastify is a Chrome extension. That's one of the reasons I recommend the Chrome website. Chrome web browser, is because of the extensions that are there, and all of them are Google friendly. So highly recommended on that. So my rich media elements, I think I have about 5 or 6 videos. One of them is specifically about the script that I wrote for the quiz, and it ends up being 30 minutes long, which made me very unhappy. So I'm going to have to figure out how to split that up into at least 3, maybe 4 parts, where it can be an introduction and then go try this and go try this and go try this. So I'm going to have to work on that. So I want to cut those rich media elements down into bite-sized chunks. Usability, I did have one of my fellow instructional designers that I work with. I had her look at it, and I thought about this in terms of another expert. I know that a lot of times in usability, we'll have someone completely inexperienced. And if I were creating the site, quote, for real, end quotes, um, I would say that I would have another expert look at it, and then I would have someone who knows nothing about it look at it. So some of the things that she pointed out to me were I'm not doing as well on consistency of design, and that probably has a lot to do with my CSS, that I'm still working on getting everything to look the same. I have not figured out how to do site-wide CSS for consistency, so I'm having to do inline CSS, which is fine, and that kind of helps me to learn it better, but I'm getting there. The other thing is, she said that I needed more instruction, which that's a time thing, being able to invest the amount of time that it takes to create the instructional materials. The time that I had on this um, in these last 8 weeks was not enough to create as much as I'd like to. Certainly not as much as I will have done before students see this. The other thing is, and this is definitely a best practice for online learning, all of your links need to open in new tabs. And I have some that I forgot to check the box on. But as a website designer, you always want to think in terms of keep the people on your site as long as possible. So open a new tab where your website is still open in another tab. So even better, embed something. Embed a page within a page on your site so that they're always on your site. I have some difficulty with I have some difficulty with the iframe HTML tag on Google Sites, but there's a way around it if you do it as an object tag. So I definitely learned something new about embedding other stuff. And then there were a couple of things on there that she said, I had to read this 5 or 6 times before I actually figured out what you were saying. And it was because when you talk, you normally, there's inflection in your voice for emphasis and things like that. And she said there was specifically one part of it that she couldn't understand because she wasn't hearing someone say it out loud. So she said that I needed to go in there and maybe put them in bold or italicized or both, so that they emphasize those words when they're kind of reading in their mind. And then additionally, I have a couple of dead links on there that I need to fix. That's one of the disadvantages of having a hypermedia website, is that links change, things go away, things change addresses, stuff like that. So it's not a bad thing to have someone do a usability test pretty often to check your links for you. So I was really glad that she pointed that out to me, because I don't know that I would have checked that myself. So it was a good thing for usability. And that is all that I have about my website. This has been a fantastic project. I've used a little bit of this for the design in another class for some instructional materials that I've been designing. So it's nice to be able to work towards things that not only you can use as another part of another class and go to the depth that you need to in whichever class, but additionally, I actually plan to use this site next year when I'm teaching. So this has been a real privilege to be able to work on something and kill 3 birds with 1 stone. So I hope that you guys found what I had to say interesting or helpful or meaningful. So I appreciate you paying attention. We'll talk to you online.